The moonlight spilled across the room, casting a serene glow on what should have been a peaceful honeymoon suite. But the tranquility was a facade, shattered by hushed voices that sliced through the stillness and into my heart. Ethan's words, laced with deceit, were like venom. "She's asleep. It's a real shame it's not you I'm marrying, Natalie." I lay still, my heart pounding in my chest. I was supposed to be sleeping, lost in dreams of our new life together. Instead, I was a silent spectator to my own betrayal. The cold realization settled in. My sister Natalie and my husband Ethan were plotting against me. On our honeymoon. "Ethan, you're wicked." Natalie's voice was soft coo, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. "But what if Lauren finds out?" "She won't. I've made sure of that." Ethan's confidence was chilling. Tears threatened to escape, but I willed them back. I couldn't reveal my awareness. Not yet. I needed to know more, to understand the depth of their treachery. As their whispers faded into the night, my mind raced. The memories of our wedding day, once vibrant and joyful, now twisted into a cruel joke. Natalie, always in the shadows, waiting to snatch what was mine. And Ethan, the man I had loved and trusted, the architect of my heartbreak. I remembered the white dress Natalie wore at the wedding, how it stood out, a deliberate choice to upstage me. Ethan's compliment to her then made sense now, a signal of their hidden alliance. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, painting a picture of deceit I couldn't ignore. When dawn broke, I rose from the bed, a plan forming in my mind. I was Lauren Harper, and if they thought they could play me for a fool, they were sorely mistaken. I was going to fight back, not just for my pride, but for every moment they had stolen from me. I slipped out of the room, my steps silent but determined. The cool morning air was a balm to my seething anger. I needed evidence, undeniable proof of their betrayal. It was the only way to ensure they couldn't wriggle out of their web of lies. Returning to the room, I found Ethan and Natalie in a seemingly innocent breakfast conversation, but the undercurrent of their secret was palpable. I joined them, my facade of ignorance perfectly in place. "How did you sleep, Lauren?" Ethan asked, his voice a sickening blend of concern and deceit. "Like a baby," I lied, my voice steady. "I feel completely refreshed." Natalie smiled, but her eyes couldn't mask the guilt. "That's great. Today's going to be amazing." Yes, it would be, but not in the way they expected. The morning sun glared through the windows, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. As Ethan and Natalie chatted about the day's plans, my mind wandered back to the wedding, the day when the seeds of deception were sown. The memory of Natalie in her white dress at my wedding was vivid, an intentional act of defiance against unwritten social rules. The dress wasn't just an outfit choice, it was a statement, a silent declaration of her intentions. Ethan had complimented her, "That flowy dress suits your petite frame." His words, once innocuous, now echoed with hidden meaning. I remembered feeling a twinge of unease then, quickly dismissed as wedding day jitters. But it was more than that. It was my intuition sensing the undercurrents of betrayal. The way Ethan's eyes lingered on Natalie, the stolen glances they thought I hadn't noticed. Our honeymoon in Bali was supposed to be an escape, a celebration of our love. Yet here I was, trapped in a nightmare of my own making. The realization that Natalie had followed us here was like a punch to the gut. How could she? How could they? I excused myself from breakfast under the pretext of needing fresh air. Alone on the balcony, I allowed myself a moment of vulnerability. The tears came then, hot and unrelenting, but with each tear shed my resolve hardened. I wiped my face, my tears not a sign of weakness, but fuel for the fire of revenge burning within me. Back in our room, I began my plan. I needed evidence, something concrete to expose them. I rummaged through Ethan's belongings when he was in the shower, looking for any proof of their affair. Then, in his coat pocket, I found it. A small piece of jewelry, a locket I had never seen before, unmistakably feminine. I held the locket, a tangible piece of their deceit. It was more than enough to start my retribution. I placed it back carefully, covering my tracks. They wouldn't know I was onto them, not until I was ready to strike. The rest of the day was a blur, a performance of the happy bride while my mind plotted their downfall. Each smile, each touch from Ethan was a lie that added to the ledger of his betrayal. And Natalie, playing the role of the doting sister, was no better. As night fell and they retreated to their secret rendezvous, I lay awake. My heart was a battleground of sorrow and rage. But amidst the chaos, one thing was clear. They had underestimated me. Lauren Harper was not a victim. She was a woman scorned, and she would have her revenge. The following days in Bali were a masterclass in deception. Ethan and Natalie believed their secret safe, but I was watching, gathering the pieces of their treachery to weave their downfall. I started by accidentally leaving my phone recording in our room when I knew they'd be alone. The things they said, their words were like daggers. "Lauren's nice and all, but she's so naive," Natalie chuckled. Ethan's reply was a twist of the knife. "That's what makes this easy. She trusts us completely." Hearing my sister and husband mock my trust was a searing pain, a betrayal that transcended heartbreak. But it fueled my resolve. This recording was the evidence I needed, but I wanted more. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the pain they caused me. One evening, as we strolled along the beach, I brought up our wedding. "Ethan, didn't Natalie look stunning in that white dress? Almost like a bride herself," I said, my voice laced with feigned innocence. Ethan stuttered, his facade cracking. "Well, yeah, it was a nice dress." Natalie shot him a look, a silent warning. "Oh, it was just a dress, Lauren. You were the star, of course." Their discomfort was palpable, a small victory in my silent war. But my greatest move came the night before we were to leave Bali. I had convinced them to have a farewell dinner, a toast to our wonderful honeymoon. Little did they know, I had arranged for a private investigator to take photos of their secret meetings. As we raised our glasses, I smiled, the predator, not the prey. "To new beginnings," I toasted, my words heavy with unspoken meaning. "To new beginnings," they echoed, unaware of the storm on the horizon. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought of the life I had envisioned with Ethan, of the future we were supposed to have. But that life was a lie, one I was no longer willing to live. Tomorrow, I would leave Bali, but I wouldn't be leaving alone. I would be taking their secrets, their lies, and turning them into weapons of my own. The journey back from Bali was a silent one. Ethan and Natalie chatted idly, unaware of the storm brewing within me. As we landed, I felt a sense of liberation, the chains of their deceit no longer holding me. At home, I acted quickly. I contacted a lawyer, presenting the evidence I had gathered. The recordings, the locket, and the photos from the investigator painted a clear picture of Ethan and Natalie's affair. My lawyer, a stern-faced woman with a sharp mind, was appalled. "We'll make sure they get what they deserve, Lauren." That evening, as Ethan returned from work, I greeted him with a smile, masking the turmoil inside. "How was your day, dear?" I asked, my voice dripping with feigned sweetness. "It was good, busy as usual," he replied, oblivious to the undercurrents. Natalie, who had come over for dinner, added, "You must be exhausted, Ethan. Let me get you a drink." Watching them, a sense of disgust washed over me. How could they be so callous, so cruel? Dinner was a charade. Ethan and Natalie played their parts well, but I could see the cracks in their armor. Every smile, every touch between them was a confession of their guilt. "Lauren, this dish is amazing," Ethan complimented, his words hollow. I smiled, my heart hardening. "I'm glad you like it. I wanted to make something special tonight." As the night wore on, I excused myself, citing tiredness. Alone in my room, I finalized my plans. Tomorrow, I would confront them, expose their lies for all to see. I had arranged for our families to meet under the guise of a belated wedding celebration. It would be the perfect stage for my revelation. The next morning, as we gathered at the venue, the tension was palpable. Ethan and Natalie were nervous, their smiles strained. Our families chatted, unaware of the drama about to unfold. I stood, glass in hand, commanding the room's attention. "I'd like to propose a toast," I began, my voice steady. "To truth and honesty, the foundation of any relationship." Ethan's eyes widened, a flicker of fear passing through them. Natalie's hand trembled ever so slightly. "To truth and honesty," the room echoed, raising their glasses. The moment had come. "I have something to share," I announced, my voice ringing clear. "Something about Ethan and Natalie." The room fell silent, all eyes on me. This was it, the moment of reckoning. The moment when the mask of deceit would fall, and their true faces would be revealed for all to see. The air in the room was thick with anticipation as I faced our families and the two people who had betrayed me the most. Ethan and Natalie looked like deer caught in headlights, their facades crumbling under the weight of impending exposure. "I've discovered something unsettling," I began, my voice unwavering. "Ethan and Natalie have been having an affair. Since before our wedding. Gasps filled the room. Ethan's face drained of color, while Natalie's eyes darted around, looking for an escape that didn't exist. This can't be true, Ethan stammered, his voice betraying him. Natalie chimed in, her tone desperate. Lauren, you're mistaken. This is crazy. I held up my phone, playing the recording of their conversation in Bali. Their own words filled the room, irrefutable proof of their deceit. You're lying. Ethan's facade broke, anger replacing the fear. You invaded our privacy. Our privacy? I echoed, my voice laced with scorn. The privacy to betray me, your wife? Natalie's eyes were filled with tears, but they sparked no sympathy in me. Lauren, please, I never meant for this to happen. It just... Just what, Natalie? Just happened to fall in love with my husband? My voice was icy, cutting through her excuses. Ethan turned to our families, pleading, This isn't what it looks like. Lauren's just upset. My father stood up, his expression a mix of anger and disappointment. Ethan, how could you do this to our daughter? And Natalie, you're her sister! The room erupted into chaos, with family members voicing their shock and disgust. Amidst the turmoil, I remained calm, the eye of the storm. This was the retribution I had sought, the exposure of their true selves. Ethan's mother approached me, her eyes filled with sadness. Lauren, I am so sorry. We never knew Ethan could do something like this. Natalie was sobbing now, her image of the innocent sister shattered. I'm sorry, Lauren. I never wanted to hurt you. Their apologies were empty, meaningless. The damage was done, the betrayal too deep. I want a divorce, Ethan, I stated firmly. And Natalie, consider our sisterhood over. As I walked out of the room, leaving behind the shattered pieces of what was once my life, I felt a surge of empowerment. They thought they could break me, but I emerged stronger, like the architect of their downfall. In the wake of the revelation, the fallout was immediate and severe. Ethan and Natalie found themselves isolated, their actions casting them adrift in a sea of judgment and scorn. I met Ethan one last time to finalize the divorce proceedings. He was a shadow of the confident man he once was, his eyes hollow with loss. Lauren, can't we talk about this? I know I made a mistake, but... A mistake, Ethan? I cut him off, my voice cold and unyielding. You call an affair with my sister a mistake? There's nothing to discuss. He reached out, but I stepped back, out of his reach forever. I never thought you'd take it this far, he said, a note of disbelief in his voice. You never thought at all, Ethan. That was your mistake. With that, I left him standing alone, a man undone by his own actions. Natalie fared no better. Our parents, once her staunch defenders, were appalled by her behavior. They cut her off, both financially and emotionally. She tried to reach out to me, her messages a mix of apologies and pleas for understanding. Lauren, please, I'm your sister. We can fix this, she texted. Her words a desperate clawing for redemption. I replied with a single sentence that severed our bond for good. You ceased being my sister the moment you betrayed me. The community around us was unforgiving. Ethan's career suffered as his reputation crumbled. Natalie found herself ostracized, her social circle closing its doors to her. They were pariahs, their names synonymous with betrayal and deceit. In their downfall, I found a bitter satisfaction. They had underestimated me, thought they could use me as a pawn in their selfish game. But I turned the tables, exposing them for who they truly were. Yet, even in victory, there was a sense of loss. The end of my marriage, the severing of ties with my sister. These were wounds that would take time to heal. But I was determined to move forward, to rebuild my life on my own terms. As I watched Ethan and Natalie grapple with the consequences of their actions, a part of me took solace in the fact that justice, though harsh, had been served. They received the karmic retribution they deserved, a fitting end to their sordid tale. The weeks following the confrontation were a time of introspection and rebuilding for me. I watched as Ethan and Natalie's lives unraveled, their once bright futures dimmed by the shadow of their betrayal. One afternoon, I encountered Ethan in a coffee shop. He was alone, a far cry from the confident man he once was. Lauren, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, I've lost everything. My job, my reputation. I never realized how much I'd lose. I looked at him, seeing the man I once loved now broken by his own doing. You didn't just lose, Ethan. You chose. You chose this path when you decided to betray me. He looked down, the weight of his choices etched on his face. I'm sorry, Lauren. Truly sorry. Your apologies can't undo the past, Ethan. You have to live with what you did, just like I do. Leaving Ethan in his solitude, I walked away, feeling a sense of closure. I had moved past the need for revenge. My healing wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. Natalie's fall from grace was equally stark. Ostracized and alone, she reached out to me one last time. Lauren, I've lost my job, my friends. I have nothing. Please, can't we put this behind us? I responded with the finality of someone who had crossed a bridge and burned it behind her. What we had as sisters is behind us, Natalie. You made your choice, and now you live with it. I've moved on. I heard the defeat in her silence, a silence that spoke volumes. In the months that followed, I threw myself into my work and my personal growth. I discovered strengths I never knew I had, and weaknesses I was now brave enough to face. The betrayal had shattered me, but in its wake, I found the pieces of who I truly was. Reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized that the experience, as painful as it was, had taught me invaluable lessons. About trust, about resilience, and about my own worth. As I looked to the future, I felt a sense of hope. I had risen from the ashes of my old life, stronger and more self-assured. The path ahead was mine to shape, and I stepped forward with confidence, ready for whatever came next.